Welcome back, everyone. Volleyball Mom here. We're going to start off with ninth grade. So here we are at ninth grade tryouts, and let's just say we're a wreck. Okay, so our particular school does a 3-day volleyball tryout. Each school's a little different. But ours is 3 days. I think it's like a conditioning day, and then it's a skill day, and then the last day are final cuts. And they typically cut throughout. So each day they cut a couple of people. So 3 days of nervousness going back to see if your child's going to make the cut or not. And every time she comes out of that hall, just waiting to see, did we make it? Did we not make it? Especially after the skill camps we did over the summer, the rec leagues we did over the summer, the strength and conditionings we did over the summer. I mean, she put in the work, and so, we were such a nervous wreck. Long story short, she made the team. She made the cut, which at the time we were so ecstatic for. We're like, yes, we finally did it. Let this journey begin. But this journey quickly turned into a nightmare. And I'm going to tell you the story of our nightmare in ninth grade. Okay, so we make the high school team, ninth grade, and it started off great. Initially, everybody's excited they made the team. We're doing some team bonding things. Everything starts off great. It's a group of about 15 girls, so a little bit larger of a team. And we did not have A and B team, so it was just one team. So it's a little bit more competitive on trying to get on the court and getting your playtime. Our first mistake, or the first thing we ran into, is that while we were doing our skill camps over the summer, we really honed in on our libero DS skill, because we found out very early on that my daughter did not have the skill for setting. I mean, your hands have to be very light and controlled, and we were not so great at setting. So we really focused on libero DS. Well, when we got to the high school, the coach decided which positions each girl would be playing. And so although my daughter asked repeatedly if she could be a DS, the coach decided she was going to make her a setter. Now, this was terrible for us because we had not worked on setting. We hadn't practiced setting. It was just not something that was going to be conducive for her because she was not good at it. So we go back to square one. Let's start over. So now my daughter's a setter. She is, I believe, at the time, the third or the fourth setter out the group, which we don't even understand why she was made a setter. She was not good at it, and she would have been able to contribute way more to the team as a DS or libero. Now, I do know that they typically want more setters on the court. In a setter position, they typically get tired easily. They're running all around the court, and just having the opportunity to have multiple to choose from is a luxury that the schools want to have, the coaches want to have. So it is what it is. We're setters now. Let's get to setter training, because in order to touch that court, we have to work overtime. Like I mentioned earlier, we knew she wasn't good at it. So what do? We spend countless hours training for setter, trying to make up for the skill that she does not have in order to be able to touch the court, because we already know she's not playing the beginning of the season. She's on the sidelines. She has at least 2 or 3 other girls that will hit that court before she does. So we're spending countless hours of getting her ready for setting so that we can at least see the court at all. Now, I wish I could tell you that having court time was our only problem. Unfortunately, we were met with a freshman coach that was just, for the lack of better words, a bully. And I don't use that word lightly. But what really solidified those feelings is in the way she would treat my daughter. She would not use her name When addressing her, she would say her or she, even though she knew my daughter's name. She would instantly, if my daughter made one mistake, pull her out, yell at her, or belittle her. Furthermore, if they were practicing and the ball came to her, instead of passing it back to her like she would do with the other girls, she would throw my daughter's ball to the back of the gym and make her run after it. Now, why she treated my daughter this way, we wouldn't know at the time. Again, like I mentioned, my daughter's body language was a little off-putting, and I understand that some coaches may have misconstrued that for some disrespect. But nevertheless, I just don't think that there's ever anything that warrants that type of behavior from an adult to a child, without speaking to her or correcting her behavior. Just straight up bullying her was not right. I wish it would have ended there, but it continued on and even became apparent in games where my daughter was a setter and she would get in trouble because the passers would pass into the net and she had a hard time getting those balls out. She would get yelled at and immediately taken out for not getting these bad pass balls. Or when she noticed that her hitters were having trouble scoring, she would set her dump and the coach came yelling from one side of the court to her to yell at her. One of the instances, she yelled at her and said, "You are a setter, you do not make points. You set the ball up for your hitters." So, although we got the point and it accomplished exactly what we wanted to do, she was angry that my daughter made the point. So there was a lot of different things that this coach was doing that really solidified the fact of what my daughter was telling me was happening in practice. And it was very difficult. As a mom, I didn't know what to do. When I tell you guys, I cried and I cried and I prayed over this, because you are an adult and you think it's acceptable to treat a child like that. A child. That was just, it made no sense to me. It made absolutely no sense to me. I want to clarify here that my daughter was not the only one being emotionally bullied by this coach. There were others too, and the only difference is that these other girls decided to quit. Now, my daughter is not a quitter. She stuck it out. She looked for ways to improve. The feedback that she got, and I don't even really want to call it feedback because it was just blatantly disrespectful. She took this feedback she got and tried to improve on it to where she would get on this court and she would make sure she did not make one mistake, because she knew one mistake would take her straight out or result in her getting yelled at. So it fueled her to work harder and play harder than anyone else. And the double standard is that she didn't get to make mistakes. Now, like I mentioned, in volleyball, there are favorites, right? And you're going to see there are going to be girls, they have the luxury of making as many mistakes as they want to make. And then you have the girls, they don't get to make mistakes. We can cry about it all day long, but the reality of it is, it fueled my daughter to be better and to be stronger. And so she just worked harder than everybody else. Are you ready for this? Something I wish I didn't do. Even after my daughter's pleas to not reach out to the coaches and not to say something, again, I'm an aggressive mom and I heard so much from my child. So I reached out to the coaches once again and asked for a meeting with the coaches. And in this meeting, I tried to be as humble and as positive as I could be and as respectful as I could be. And the only thing I asked is that the coach not treat my child with indifference, not treat her like she doesn't exist or she's nobody. I didn't ask for playing time. That wasn't my priority. I didn't ask for a positional change. The only thing I asked is for her to acknowledge my daughter by her name to not just continue to disrespect her? The answer I got from the coach was, your daughter's off-putting. That's why she gets treated like that. Well, the head coach was there too, and the head coach told me it's the freshman's coach's job to break the girls so that they're ready for that next level. The only girl I saw that was getting broken was my child. The repercussions of my actions, my daughter spent the rest of the season on the bench. My daughter's always been a big team player, always cheering for others, extremely loud. I mean, this girl could be a cheerleader if her father let her. And so I just remember one time she got in trouble because the team lost. Mind you, she never got on the court, but it was her fault they lost because she wasn't cheering loud enough. Although there was plenty of other girls on the bench who sat there with an attitude and didn't even bother to cheer at all. Just to kind of give you a picture of the double standard. So, it is what it is. That is a lesson that we learned the hard way. The season was, mid for the rest of it. She didn't bully her as much anymore, I would say. If anything, she probably completely pretended like she didn't exist. So that made my daughter's life, I guess, a little bit easier because she wasn't getting acknowledged, but at least she wasn't getting picked on. And then I remember the very last game of the season, she put my daughter in. And when I tell you guys, my daughter made sure she made not one mistake. She did not give this coach one reason to take her out. They destroyed the other team. They won that game, and she scored so many points. I could not have been more proud. But now you're probably wondering, why are we still doing this? Like, why haven't we quit? Why haven't we stopped? What's the real reason? Well, my daughter's love for the game was just so enormous, and we're not quitters. We're not somebody to be like, okay, we fall down, we hurt, we get back up, we put in the work, we do what we gotta do, we come back stronger, we come back harder. That's always my lesson to her, because life's gonna knock you down over and over and over again. Like, don't take it. Don't lay down. Get back up. Try again, So that was one of the reasons why we continued on. You'd be happy to know that coach, I don't know, got fired, left, quit, I don't know. But she did not continue on. We then went into our spring season of high school, which spring season is something that schools do just to get the girls some extra touches, some playtime. It's usually very inexpensive, $40 to $50 or something like that. The rule behind spring season is coaches are not allowed to coach spring season. The girls have to kind of coach themselves. It's some UIL rule, I think, to keep from coaches prepping too early or pre-prepping their teams for the season or something like that. So we went through spring season and everything was great. So we'll talk about 10th grade next.